Hello and welcome to another episode of Metal Effort. My name's Nehemiah, and today we're going to be looking at this piece of metal, the Massdrop Perpetua. It's made by Millit Knives in collaboration with TJ Schwarz. First off, let's get into our size comparison. We've got our paramilitary 2 and our para 3, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of a weird size. So, bust out the old ruler for this one. We've got, just over 3.25 inch blade. We've got 3.75 grip area. Handle itself is just over 4. It's kind of weird because you would think it's a big knife by looking at it. And when you hold it, it feels like a big knife. But it's a 3.25 inch blade, which is kind of interesting. And our weigh-in here is going to be very important. This little turd is clocking in at 4.35 ounces, which is, definitely over an ounce an inch. Holding it in the hand, you would expect it to be more than that, but still. It's not winning any light awards, that's for sure. So with those out of the way, let's get into our dent, the decent, the excellent, the nitpicks, and the terrible of this piece of metal. First off is the blade steel. We're looking at Nitro-V here. So this is not a blade steel you get to see very often. It's nitrogen based and similar to like LC200N or Van X, this is going to have really stellar anti-corrosion. Very, very good around, water and moisture and stuff that would normally chew away at a knife blade. This should be able to shrug it off no problem. As far as like its actual edge retention, it's in the VG10 range, maybe a little bit worse, somewhere in there. It depends on the hardness that you get it to. At first, when the knives were coming out, they thought they were going to be in the 58 HRC range, but they ended up being in the 60 to 61, from what I hear. So that's good. It should help the edge retention and sharpness of it. Next thing I like about this knife is just the fact that it's ambidextrous. Actually, I have a friend that's got a passing interest in knives, or has at least rooted me on for my YouTube channel, and every time he picks up a knife, I'm reminded that the poor fella is left-handed. So most of my knives just aren't comfortable for him to use, but he saw this knife and he actually enjoyed it. He liked that he could use the lock on either side, he can open the knife on either side, and obviously you can move the clip to the other side. So 100% ambidextrous, which is nice for the handed people of the left side. Now, this lock is an Axis lock, but we can't call it the Axis lock because Benchmade still has the name Axis lock, but lost the patent for the actual lock itself, I guess, which is weird. I don't know how that works. Like, they didn't even, give this another name, and I think they should. I don't know. It could be a bad pun, make this the governor, and this is the governor, you got to pay your taxes. This is the taxes lock. I apologize, that was really bad. Anyway, so the lock is pretty much fine. It's good. It's strong, like you would imagine Axis lock to be. It's unlikely that you would have both Omega springs break at the same time. Even if one goes out, the other one's pushing forward on there. So the likelihood that this bar slides back and the blade comes down on you is pretty low. So, not to say that Omega springs can't go bad. That's something that happens on even Benchmade's knives. And there was some reports, especially in the first production run. I think there's only been one production run. It's 1,000 knives? This is number 905. But anyway, there were some reports of some people having issues with their Omega springs. I think that's a small percentage on the whole. It should be, in the 1 or 2%, if anything, of that being an issue. And from the customer service, from what I understand, is good. That if you need to, you can call and they'll send you some more Omega spring. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. In general, the lock should perform pretty well. You can get to it from both sides. When you're pulling back, you got fall, shut, swingy kind of action. That's one of the benefits of both the compression lock and the axis lock, is that you have something very sturdy, but gives you very good, fall shut action if you want. And then next thing I want to talk about is ergonomics. And the ergonomics on this are surprisingly good. It kind of nestles up into your hand. It's very blocky, but the edges are rounded enough and it's contoured enough. Not actually contoured this way, but enough that it's fine. It's good. It's like grabbing a boring gray piece of poop, and it's kind of gross, but it's not uncomfortable. Yeah. The clip is kind of in the way, but not too bad. If I was doing like a rope cut test or something, I feel like that clip would start to annoy me a little bit. But it's not like an immediate hot spot. It'd be more like a long-term use hot spot. It's fine. It's okay. It definitely feels sturdy. Next thing I want to talk about is the jimping. And you know me, I like good jimping. It's just, it better jimp. That's all I'm saying. I don't like the halfway between jimping. Either no jimping or lots of good jimping. This is really large, exaggerated jimping, which it's a little bit uncomfortable on the finger, but I would imagine it's pretty good with gloves. And I feel like this is kind of being marketed as like a really tough knife. I'm gonna have my gloves because I won't cut myself. I ain't no pansy. And so, I think it does the job as advertised. Even though this is kind of a heavy little fat turd, there is some milling in the steel liners here. The steel is just so freaking thick, and the milling isn't really all that aggressive, but it's there. I can't imagine what this would feel like in the hand if it wasn't milled out. The irony is this was made by Millit Knives. I guess they didn't mill it enough. I like the stonewash blade. It hides marks, it hides fingerprints. It adds to the drab gray thing that they're going for, so that's good. Hit that out of the park. And the fit and finish, the fit and finish on this particular knife is good. Now, I can't really judge the knife on what I've been hearing tangentially from people. I don't know if that's a word, but I just used it. This sucker is centered. There's not really any seams. Could use some chamfering on the clip. The clip is about as basic as you could get, but it's a little sharp. I wouldn't mind. And it marks up easy because it's so sharp. But other than that, like, the action is good. I can open it up. I can even do the Spidey flick because I Spidey flick everything. But you can do it. So yeah, action. Clip is touching. Some people were having their clip not touch and they had to like take it off and bend it back. Didn't get one of those. My version is good, but this was like a later run, so I think they probably, or later in the batch, I should say, probably figured these things out by then. So yeah, I'll give it a passing grade on the fit and finish. All right, next we are talking about the Excellent. And Excellent, I've got one thing, and that's value. This knife is clocking in at the $110, $120 range. Massdrop. It's not on there right now. It's been requested. They might make more, they might not. You're getting a cool new steel. You're getting Nitro-V, something you can play around with, just see what exactly the cutting capabilities are while having something that's so incredibly corrosion resistant. I think it's cool that they're experimenting with new steels at a cheap price. It's made in America. So, kind of factor all those things in. It's hard to complain too much on the price of this knife. You're getting decent things. G10 and steel is a little boring, but the steel, I think most of the money went to the steel. But anyway, it's excellent. I wanted to put something in the Excellent, people. Give me a break here. All right, moving on to nitpicks. This is going to be fun. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 9 nitpicks. Strap in, guys. This is why you came here. Oh, yeah. All right. Nitpick number 1. This sucker is ugly. This is subjective, blah, 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 blah. But this thing is... It reminded me instantly of like a two-tone gray station wagon from like 1982. Or like, if Eeyore had an EDC, this would be his knife of choice. The poor guy. Oh, need a knife. Which one do I get? Oh, I like this one. It's nice and gray. Number 2, the clip. Oh, man. Okay, so the clip is bad in general, but we'll go in detail of exactly why crappy this clip is. Yoda talk. All right, so first off, these 2 screws are too close together. And because they're so close together, there's a lot of leverage to move the clip. So what's happening is people are snagging their clip on things, which is easy to do because it's so lifted up from the knife, and those corners are so sharp, it's not sweeping past things, it's just snagging onto it, and then you yank it, and these things, it may as well just be 1 screw, not 2, and then it just wants to pull and twist out of this little groove that they dug themselves into the G10. So you can, like, you know, bend it back and screw it down or whatever, but it's just, if you made it wider instead of deeper this way, just like squish it and make it wider and then have the screws be further apart, that makes sense. And or also another thing, the clip should be up higher. Normally the thing that the clip is getting out of the way of is the lanyard hole, and the lanyard hole isn't even here, it's over here. So why are you putting a screw there? Like, if the knife is shut, this screw could be in many different places. It can be much closer to the blade. It could be way further down. It could be like right here. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, just move it back this way. You got plenty of room right here. Put the screw here, and then move the clip right here. That's where it should be. And then it'd be, you know, in your pocket instead of this like little gray turd sticking out of your pocket that's just like huge. Humongous. I don't like that. Next thing, the blade is not a really good deep cutter. Now, it's thick on the spine, for sure. And I don't want to just assume that it's going to be thick behind the edge. I measured it. It's a hollow grind, and it actually, it cuts fine. It gets in, and it slices up to the grind line right here. And then once it gets to there, then you're like pushing through. So I think the big thing, since most of us aren't like pirates or anything, the liquid that we're worried about is food. You know, you chop it into like a lemon or a orange, something citrusy that would normally eat away at your blade like crazy. This Nitro-V is like, hey, I got, you know, this really good corrosion resistant blade, but it's not really meant for food prep. You've got your thumb stud in the cutting path, and then it's just so stinking thick. You're trying to cut an apple, and it feels like you have to baton the knife. Like, I don't know. I don't like it for cutting. It's okay. The tip isn't great. It's like all the disadvantages of just a Wharncliffe that doesn't have a sharp point, but doesn't have the sliciness of like a normal traditional like leaf-shaped blade. It's like the worst of both worlds. I feel like it's trying to be the best of both worlds, but I feel like it missed the mark a little bit in that regard. Speaking of thumb studs, when the knife is closed, the thumb studs are too close to the body of the knife, so you can't really wedge your thumb in between and swing out this way. You have to do the directly up motion, which works fine. It's totally fine. But you could have solved 2 problems in one solution here by moving it up and back, and I think it would be a lot more comfortable to open up, and then once it's open, the thumb stud would be more in this area and would be out of the cutting path. So we like did perfectly the wrong thing in where we put the thumb stud. The thumb stud itself works fine. It's just where it is the issue. As far as like how grippy it is, it's actually one of the better ones I've experienced. But wrong location spells doom. And of course, I'm going to complain about this every time until they stop doing it. I don't like the branding. This isn't near as bad as other Massdrop knives. So this isn't the nitpick, you know, still. I don't know. Just put it somewhere clever, guys. Come on, do it. Make it happen. At least this side is clean. I do appreciate that. Good job. My last nitpick is simply the blade to handle ratio. Now, you've got this 3.25 inch blade, which is one of my favorite blade sizes, but you got this big old heavy, beefy, fatty handle attached to it. Like, if I showed you this handle, and you're like, what blade would be connected to this? And then I show you this little bitty blade, it looks like the wrong blade on the wrong knife. It doesn't match. And when you put it this way, you see, like, it's barely, the tip is barely going, like, not even halfway through that barrel spacer. So it could have gone so much further out and still not be, in danger of getting poked or anything like that. So did you make it for the ergonomics? Like, you have this much sticking out, so you could have trimmed this stuff down a little bit. It's just really off. The size, the dimensions are just not right. It's not a small EDC knife, and it's not a big burly, utility knife. It's not a food knife. Like, who is this knife for? I don't know who this knife is for. All right, into the terrible. The actual terrible thing here, I do want to mention this, and this is, it's terrible, but only just. There's a little bit of lock rock. You can maybe hear it, and it's just the distance in between the little bar, this bar, and where it's hitting the back of the blade. There's just a little bit of blade play. It's something I didn't notice at first, but yeah, it's there. It's undeniably there. So I don't think it's like a danger thing. This axis lock or the Taxis lock is not gonna slip out. It's not like, in a liner lock, when I have lock rock, that could be dangerous because it might pop my lock out and then cha-cha. So I don't think it's a danger thing. It's just an observation, And what can you expect on a $110 knife? There's gonna be some things that are not perfect. I get it. But I'm gonna mention it, and it is terrible. So in conclusion, I don't really know who this knife is supposed to be for, or what job it's supposed to fill, or who this is supposed to appeal to. It's not a bad knife, I guess, ? There's a lot of little nitpicks that I have, and you're not paying that much for it. But I feel like I could take that $100 and get a better knife somewhere else. And the Nitro-V just isn't doing enough for me, considering the blade shape is kind of not conducive to the things that I would normally want Nitro-V for. So I'm just a little confused. I'm a little bored. It's just not doing it for me. So if you have something about this knife that you think I haven't given it a fair shake, if you think there's a job or a role that it's filling that I haven't thought of, or that you really appreciate it for, I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments. So far, everybody has been fantastic in the comment section on my channel, and I very much appreciate everybody in the way that they're talking and speaking to everybody. It's very amicable, and I really enjoy the conversation and learning from you. So chime in, and I want to know your thoughts. What do you think of this Perpetua, which I guess means forever? Like, you're going to EDC this for the rest of your life? That seems like a punishment, not a pro. We'll see. Well, we finally have a Massdrop knife that I'm not gushing all over, so we could scratch that off my list. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! It's made by Millit Knives in collaboration with TJ Schwarz. Schwarz? May the Schwarz be with you. Have jimping. Don't have kind of jimping. That's my pet peeve. This is definitely... That was Siri. Holy crap, that just scared the crap out of me. Whew.